crazy to me right now because, in my mind, part of me thinks, why would anybody buy new right now? Like, what's your
Right.
incentive to buy a new car?
It's got to be
You
interest
know?
rates and stuff like that, maybe, or longer financing even. But even at that, like that payment could be better used in a used car.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we don't know the bottom. We were watching something on this earlier. We just don't know what the bottom is right now.
Right.
So like I thought for sure the Quattroporte 20 grand would probably be the bottom on that car. It's 2014. It's 50,000 miles. I'm thinking 20 grand. I'd be surprised if I get 20 grand out of that car. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to 2CarGuys podcast. I am John. This is Adam, and we're going to talk about the car market and all the craziness in it.
Yeah, what a car market it is. So let's start with a little car shopping, right?
Oof.
And then I guess that'll lead us into the car market. You first. You were looking at potentially replacing your truck and maybe even the Porsche, right?
Right. So I was looking at selling the Porsche Cayenne,
Yep,
and my truck, and getting a TRX, and just kind of add that to the channel. The prices have come down on the used market a little bit to the 70s, which sucks because I could have bought one new back in 2 years ago for 79, right? So, but regardless, so me and my wife talked about it. She was cool with going back to driving the Maserati that's paid for. We could get that, maybe lower our payment, get into something kind of cool. Obviously, we're decent in both vehicles. At least we thought we were. But the market has softened a lot, especially on trades. And when you're dealing with dealers that are in smaller towns and you have cars like the Porsche Cayenne and stuff like that, they don't even want it on trade.
Yeah,
like,
you're telling me that.
Dude,
You tell me they were willing to consign it, but they didn't even want it on a trade.
They were full on scared of the car, like
which
just
is crazy.
Full on scared of it. And that to me just like kind of caught me off guard.
Yeah.
But worst case, we ended up doing what we did and keep the two cars, keep my truck. I'll probably do a leveling kit and mud tires on it and enjoy it like it is. It's not a horrible place to be. But unfortunately, it looks like the market has really, really softened a lot. Now you have been test driving cars for the past couple weeks, obviously.
Yeah. Now I didn't realize how bad the market had softened. Honestly, I mean that was kind of I think we all knew it was coming. We talked about it. We'd seen other YouTubers talk about it. But I really thought I was in a better shape in that X5. And so for those of you who don't know, the X5 wasn't really on my radar. I've always liked the X5, but it wasn't the car I was hunting for after the Roush F-150.
Right.
And it was kind of the right place, right time. And don't get me wrong, I like the car. It's got the path lighting. It's got the when you walk away, it's got the perimeter sensing keys, so the mirrors fold in and out, and locks the car. The app is really helpful, and it's a fun car to drive. It drives more like a car than it does an SUV.
Right.
But I would say it's not necessarily my style. I've always either had cars or I've had trucks.
Right.
And so I had an idea going back to the truck. And when you were up here last time, right, when we did our Cafe and Octane, we went to look at the new F-150.
Yeah.
And I love that truck. I love the styling of it. The tech in it is amazing. Although I do have a bone to pick with Ford, and we can talk about that here in a second. But it's a really cool truck. But when you've been driving an SUV for 2 years and you get into that truck, it feels like it's just gigantic.
Right.
I mean, I was like looking back at you guys in the back seat, and I was like, they are not even in the same vehicle I'm in. I feel like I'm driving a school bus. Like, it's crazy.
It's crazy that you say that when you drive an SUV, because you would think it'd be the other way around, right?
Yeah. No, I mean, the SUV is significantly smaller than that truck. I mean, especially inside wise. If you look at the armrest in my SUV is big enough for both people to put their arms on it, right?
Yeah.
The armrest in the F-150 is large enough that it folds into a table for you to use as a workspace and put a laptop in there. I mean, that's insane. But really quick, so one of the features that I don't have on my BMW And one of the features that I want is adaptive cruise control. And I know you've said before you don't like using it, you don't really use it that much.
Not that big a deal.
I do like using it, and I think it's cool to have, especially for long trips and stuff. I don't know how often I'd use it. No, I don't know how often I'd use it, but I do like the idea of it. But with that being said, I found out today that Ford offers Blue Cruise, which is hands-free driving on the highway, right?
Right. Yeah.
Here's something you probably didn't know. When you buy that car, that Blue Cruise is only available for 3 years.
Oh, it's a paid feature. Yep. BMW got slapped for that, dude.
Yeah,
like they've even discontinued it. They were going to do like heated and cooled seats as an option, like that you could pay for. Yeah, the equipment's there, but you got to pay for it.
Yep,
get out of here with the subscription-based stuff, man.
Yeah, so if you look at Ford's website, it says that Blue Cruise is included for 36 months.
Wow.
And I was like, well, won't be getting that then. So,
hey, look, I'll be honest. We rode in that truck with you. It's cool. It's a cool truck. Obviously, I'm not necessarily a Ford fan. I have never owned a Ford. Out of all the vehicles I've owned, the closest I've came was my Aston Martin DB9, which was very Ford based.
Yeah,
and that experience wasn't great. So never really owned a Ford. And so when you were talking about that, and I was like, well, at least it'll be cool to ride in, check out, and all that stuff. I didn't like the sound of the truck. Like it just didn't sound great to me personally.
So you're not wrong, right? I mean, that's been my biggest complaint, and the thing that's been holding me back from buying the Raptor was the 6-cylinder, right?
Yeah.
I don't really like the sound of the EcoBoost motor. Now they changed up the motor in the Raptor specifically, and it's got a more aggressive sound to it, but it's still not the V8. And I will say, my Roush, that's why I bought the Roush over buying a Raptor in the first place, because the Roush was a 650 horsepower supercharged F-150.
Yes.
V8, 5-liter Coyote. And I love that. And then, I put an order in for the new Raptor that is the Raptor R.
Yeah.
And that was supercharged 5.2 liter V8. Right. So to me, that I'd rather have the V8 sound,
So yes, agreed. And so that's what's really pushed me towards the TRX. Supercharged, 700 horsepower truck. That sounds cool. But the used market on those things, they're not in great shape. They're not lasting well. So my truck is a 2019. It's got 62,000 miles on it, and it's pristine. I mean, you're not going to find anything in it or on it that's an issue. I went and drove a 2022 TRX. They wouldn't let me drive it. They said it was a luxury vehicle and I couldn't drive it. Sun Chevrolet, thanks for that. I can't handle luxury vehicles, obviously. And but I'm on the way to go look at it, and I didn't even need to. I opened the door. It smelled like they were covering up a smell. This is a $79,000 truck before taxes and fees and all this stuff. And I haven't even valued a trade here. And so I opened the door and I'm like, that's already, not what I want. I don't want to cut the heat on in the winter and it smells like cigarettes. Yeah. And so, and so then I start to look at stuff. And so like the TRX badge that's like in the center console, that's like part of the truck that like has the VIN and all this stuff. Sure, I could probably buy one from Dodge, but it's missing on this truck. And then the dash cowl that goes over like the gauges, it has shrunk up and like was loose. And like the leather's just loose. And I'm like, the dash is right behind it if it hasn't already done it. And I'm just like, nah, man, like I don't even need to drive it. Like, and it was a pretty color. It was beautiful blue truck. Looked great. It was kind of the spec we wanted, but it was a higher mileage one. It was 50,000 miles. Ugh. But it had been through worse shape than my truck that was in great shape. So it didn't make sense that car. So then we started looking at other options, and I was like, well, I can buy a brand new 2500 HD 2024 for the same price. And so I started looking at those. And so I went and test drove a LTZ and all this stuff. And I'm like, hey, y'all run the numbers. Let's see, what it looks like. And they didn't want my wife's car at all. Then
crazy.
Which blew my mind. I was like, y'all are this close to Atlanta and would turn down this on a trade. And it's probably worth 40 grand on resale market. Like I could sell it for 40 grand. Yeah. But on trade, I was thinking like 35, 35 kind of puts me where I want to be. And they were like 29. And I was like, have a nice day. You know what I mean? Like you've completely lost me. And then my truck's probably worth 40, 42. and they offered me 30, and I was just like, no, this isn't going to happen. So no offense to the dealers. I get it. Trade's trade, retail's retail, but that big of a gap. I mean, they're just trying to not be underneath it. And I think that's because the market's falling. And,
but I mean, that's where we are with the market, right? So,
Yeah.
so this past weekend, I went to go look at two different cars. I went to go look at the Porsche Cayenne Coupe, which is kind of a more of a slick back, Cayenne.
Yeah.
Didn't really enjoy it. My biggest issues with the car. Now for everybody that's listening, I drove the turbo 6-cylinder, not the V8.
Right.
And my biggest issue with the car is the amount of fingerprints that are all over that thing, because everything in there is piano black. There's no tactile buttons. Oh, it drove me insane.
Jessica specifically wanted the one without the buttons.
Yeah.
With the solid glass stuff. And like a week after we got it, I'm just like, oh, I can't stand these buttons.
Oh,
it's like
horrible.
everything's fingerprinted up. I like, when we're taking it somewhere, I have to clean it.
Yeah.
And then while we're driving it, I'm like, okay, I can see I cut the cooled seat on a couple times,
At every stoplight, you're just going back and trying to fix it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a big issue for me. I didn't really like the way the steering wheel felt. I didn't like the angle that I sat. I couldn't even see the speedometer. Thank God that thing's got heads up display, because I couldn't see the miles per hour because of the angle I was sitting at.
And I think that's an issue with the new ones. It's not an issue with hers. Hers is a 19. And hey, with the tune and everything, I love her car. Don't get me wrong. But yeah,
the other caveat to that car, and I just thought about this now. Now it's kind of a weird thing, but I guess it doesn't really make much of a difference. But it's got a glass roof.
Okay,
yeah, but it doesn't open.
Jessica's opens.
No, so the Cayenne Coupe, because of the shape of the roof doesn't open.
Oh.
So the regular Cayenne, the roof opens, right? And I was thinking about it the other day. I mean, how many times do I actually open the roof on my car, right? I mean, I do open the shade because I've got the full pano roof.
Right.
So I do open the shade, but I mean, how many times do I really open the roof? But I left there and I went to Audi and I drove the SQ8. I didn't even drive the RSQ8. I drove the SQ8. Now, same issue you had. It was a used car. Definitely had a smell in it. You knew when you got in. I was like, oh, yeah, something's
getting covered
weird.
up. Yeah.
That car had a vibration in the front end, and I wasn't sure if it was coming from the front tire or the rear tire or whatever, but I knew that it was, there was a vibration. You could feel it.
Yeah.
But fun car. I mean, the way the engine sounds when you're driving it, the shifts feel good.
Dynamic. Yeah. There we go.
Whoa!
Yeah. The way the stuff's laid out now, it does have a lot of, place it like the piano black and stuff like that, but for some reason it didn't feel like it had as many fingerprints on it as the BMW, as the Porsche
as the Porsche. Yeah.
But it was crazy because that's how we kind of got in this conversation.
Right.
I went in there, they had a 2024 SQ8, right, with dry carbon, a bunch of other stuff on it. They want $110,000 for it, right? The Porsche was I think it was like $105,000, right? But ultimately, you start looking around. I mean, I was finding SQ8s 1 and 2 years old with the same body style, right, for $60,000.
Yeah,
and that was kind of the wake up call to me because I bought my car as almost like a demo. I bought it with 2,000 miles on it in 22.
Right.
And I got it under retail, under MSRP by a good margin. And so I felt really good about that, considering the fact that everybody was buying their cars at, MSRP and above at that point, right? In 22. Yeah. And now I go look, and I mean, when we were up looking at the F-150, the number he shot me on the F-150 and for my car, I was like, man, I'm a break even almost. I might end up being a little upside down. I was like, how is this possible?
Yeah.
I bought that thing good.
Yeah. And same thing. I mean, I bought her car just right. I mean, I know I paid a big down payment, we're in it right. And for me to be upside down and have done all that less than a year,
Yeah.
Man, the future's tough.
But that just tells you where the car market is going. And
Yeah.
here's the thing that is still confusing to me is people are still buying new cars. Now, I think a lot of it is leases, right? Because you can lease a car. It doesn't really matter what the, what the projection or the trajectory of the car's value is.
Right.
But I mean, well, we were waiting on them to pull around the Audi, right?
Yeah.
They share a parking lot with Alfa Romeo and Maserati. And there's a white Maserati Gran Turismo sitting out front with red leather interior.
Yeah.
And we walked up to it and we're all like, man, that's a good looking car, And I looked in the window and I thought it was used originally. And I looked in the window, I realized it was new. Okay. And it was $230,000, $220 and change. Yeah. And I was like, the thing is, you and I both know that the market on Maseratis is terrible.
Oh, it's rough.
And in 2 or 3 years, it's going to tank. That's going to be worth $100,000. You're going to lose $100,000 on that car.
So
right? What was the joke you told me the other day? You can hear the depreciation as it drives by. You can hear
the depreciation as it's driving by. And so, one of the craziest things. So I guess I can say this now because the dealer I was dealing with actually is closing. So I don't know if they've closed yet, and I won't say the name of the dealer. But I walked into a dealer looking at Maserati MC20s and a brand new MC20 with an MSRP of 200 and I want to say it was 275 or something like that. They were offering $60,000 off the car.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah.
And I was like, I mean, is that a good deal? And then I started looking at the used market and it's like, no, it's still going to drop to 190. You know what I mean? Like in no time. And
I just don't understand that thought process though. Right.
Yeah. Man.
And they did have a blacked out MC20.
Yeah.
All carbon. Yeah. Had one of the coolest interiors I've seen in a long time. Black with lots of blue accents.
Yeah.
$330,000 for the Spider. Yeah. Right.
Any carbon add-ons on that car, the price just goes through the roof. If you add the Celio package where it's convertible, it's even more.
But I mean, here's the thing, right? $330,000 for that car. You're in Huracan Technica territory, right? You're in McLaren territory.
You're in McLaren 750 territory.
Yeah, pretty close.
You know where my money be.
I'd much rather have a 750 over an MC20.
Absolutely. And don't get me wrong, the MC20 is a cool car. And I have a soft spot for Maserati because my first supercar originally, first supercar I ever saw was a Maserati. And I was like, I want that one day. When I make it, I'm going to have one. Well, I've had two. And, they're cool cars. That's about all I can say at this point. The Gran Turismo, the older ones, they look the part. They don't drive the part. So they don't feel like a supercar. It's a luxury car. And same thing with the Quattroporte. Obviously, I expected that to be more on the cruiser side. And it's a great car. But I'm not paying. I mean, that car new was $160,000. I paid $27,000 for it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like $27,000 versus the 160. I would much rather be on my end of it. And still could lose money
expected.
On that car.
Well, so here's the crazy part, right? That's expected in the Maserati market. And I know that the market in general is down.
Yeah.
What we're starting to see though is that on the used car market too, right?
Yeah. Across the board.
And it's crazy to me right now because, in my mind, part of me thinks, why would anybody buy new right now? Like, what's your incentive to buy a new car?
It's got to be interest rates and, stuff like that, maybe, or longer financing even. But even at that, like that payment could be better used in a used car.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we don't know the bottom. We were watching something on this earlier. We just don't know what the bottom is right now. So, like I thought for sure the Quattroporte, $20,000 would probably be the bottom on that car. It's 2014. It's 50,000 miles. I'm thinking $20,000. I'd be surprised if I get $20,000 out of that car. And
which is crazy because that's a really nice spec car.
It's a sweet
it's
car.
Got carbon all over it. It's super clean.
It doesn't matter. It's a Maserati. One dealer explained it to me because I was like, dude, what is it with the Maserati? Like, y'all don't even want to take it on trade. Like, I was looking at other cars before because I'm always looking at cars. I'm a car guy, just like you.
Same.
and so, and I'm like, what is it about the Maserati? And he's like, dude, you're the only person in town that's not scared of that car. And I'm like,
really?
What do you mean? I mean, it's a great car. And he's like, sell that to somebody else. You know what I mean? Sell that it's a great car to somebody else. And I was like, well, maintenance has been cheap and all that stuff. And they're like, okay. But when we buy it, we have to retail it.
Right.
And if there's any issues with it, I have to take it to a dealer.
Yep.
There's no dealer anywhere near me. Now in Atlanta, that's a different situation. But here in Auburn, Alabama, the closest dealer used to be in Birmingham. So, I don't know, man. It's interesting.
We got 2 Maserati dealers here, right?
You do, yeah.
But it's just I don't understand.
It's wild, man.
I just don't understand the market. Now, I will tell you, generally Porsche seems to hold their value better than, some of these other cars. I was a little shocked to see how much I lost on the BMW, just in general. The Raptors hold their value really, really well.
Yeah.
But it's tough because if you want another car right now, you've basically got to try and find that perfect mix,
Yeah.
And we still see, like Tacomas and 4Runners holding value well and doing well. I'm actually surprised that the 4Runner didn't take a huge hit when the new redesign came out.
Right.
But I mean, they're known for doing well.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't know what the best thing to do at this point is. Maybe just sit on the X5 and
that's what I'm doing. Here's the thing. I look at it like this. I'm always going to need a truck. If I don't have a TRX, that's fine. I want a TRX. I don't need a TRX.
Nobody needs a TRX.
Right. And she is very happy with her Porsche. She loves it. I enjoy driving. It's a great trip car. When we come to Atlanta, if it's, whatever, it fits in kind of anywhere, because it's still a Porsche. It's not like, whatever. So, I mean, is it something we have to do? No. Would it have been nice to lower our payments month? Sure. But the market's down across the board. She's a real estate agent. I'm in sales and all that stuff. And when you're seeing the market making direction changes, you don't want to tie your money up in a bunch of cars. And currently that's where we're at. So, and that's fine. Will we be fine? Yes. At the end of the day. So, but yeah. I mean, again, the smallest fiddle, you know what I mean? Like nobody, people that aren't into this aren't going to care. People that are probably understand our frustrations here. And I thank y'all for coming into the channel and comment below. Tell me your frustrations with the current car market. Maybe you're trying to buy a first car for one of your kids or something. And, and they want, something really nice. And right now the market's so crap that you can't even buy like a $5,000 car. I don't think that exists. You know what I mean?
No. And, I've had that one car that's been in for service for a while. And we're just at a point right now where it's like, you couldn't even pay to replace it for $5,000.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the market's so crazy. Like, and what I hope is that it brings the prices of ultra luxury cars down to our level. You know what I mean? Things that we couldn't afford before, like the 720S or, something like that. I would love for that to come into my realm to be able to purchase and buy a nice enough version of it.
Right.
But, to have that money, I'm going to have to sell some cars and I don't need those to depreciate as well. So, it's a tough spot to be in.
It's a tough balancing act because those cars come down. Those are cars I want. Yeah. And that means that the price of the cars I have goes down as well. Right.
And so,
it's a tough spot to be in, but let us know what cars that you think would be good investments during this time, or is it just better to sit on what we've got and wait for the market to rebound?
Absolutely.
Put it in the comments below. But once again, thank you guys for subscribing. If you made it this far into the video, we appreciate it. Make sure to hit the like, make sure to hit the subscribe, forward on to your friends, and come back for more.
And we'll see you on the next one.
See ya.
Peace.